and welcome to the LondonBiker.com. You join us again here in Wales in the barn. It's pouring with rain outside and we're rough camping it. But we're going to do breakfast. In the last video, a link for which you should now see on the screen, we made flatbread. Here they are, ready to go. Very simple pieces of flour and water. We're going to get these going on the stove behind me. Now what you can hear already cooking are sausages. We've just diced them up. They're in the pan cooking through, and we are going to make a breakfast recommended by Les at Travel Dry Plus. It's breakfast in one pot. But let's turn around and get this bread cooking. It's very, very simple to do. Now what you're looking for is a fairly low flame. You don't want it going too high. You just want a little bit of olive oil, not a great deal. Now olive oil, as we know, Patrick says that you shouldn't cook with olive oil, and you certainly shouldn't fry with olive oil because it releases all sorts of nasty chemicals, and I'm sure he's quite correct, but I like the flavour. So just while that olive oil is heating up, I'm just going to give these sausages a turn. Olive oil in here as well, I'm afraid, Patrick. And I'm cooking for two, so it's a nice big breakfast. There we go, this olive oil is just heating up. Just give it a little bit. In fact, that's a little bit warm, so I'm just going to bring that flame down even more. Now, flatbread, simplicity itself. Grab your bread, put it in your pan, let it cook. It takes 5-10 minutes. You know it's cooked when it starts to bubble. So we're going to let that get on. We've got two pieces of that to do, and we're going to go back to the breakfast. Now, they are still cooking through, so let's talk eggs. Come this way, Mr. Martin. Transporting eggs on the road, especially on a motorbike, is a bit of pain in the arse. So we've had two suggestions from our viewers on how to transport eggs. The one viewer being Stace Martin, and the other viewer being my wife. Two methods. First is Mr. Martin's method. Egg box. Egg box taped shut, and the eggs, 4 of which instead of 6, each egg individually taped into the box. And Mr. Martin, the eggs are in one piece. That's a good method. Now, it's worth pointing out these eggs didn't just travel 250 miles yesterday on the road on the motorbike. They were also in a pannier that kind of fell on the ground with the rest of the bike after the motorbike kind of slipped on some sheep poo. The second method, Mrs. Cashmore's method, is if you're only away for a couple of days, your eggs are going to get broken anyway, break them and put them in a thermos. Now I have no idea whether or not this has worked, so let's open it up. Hopefully they're already scrambled. Oh look at that, that's fantastic. Take a look at that. Those eggs, not only are they absolutely fresh and safe, they're also completely unscrambled. Wow, we're going to use those. Marvellous. Let's just give this a little bit of a turn again. Now this recipe is really very simple. Put your sausages in. We'll come back to the eggs in a second. Anything else you're going to put in there, and it can be absolutely anything. In this case, I'm going to put some bacon in there because there simply isn't enough meat in this breakfast already. Those keener eyes of you will have noticed that I bought a new knife in Australia. Thank you very much for the tips and hints on knife buying. I'm pointing out that my previous knife, while cutting the chicken on the beach, do you remember the sand? Yes, anyway, wasn't effective. So I bought a new one, bacon in the pan. Let's give that a bit of a going round. Now you can hear from the heat that actually I've got it on about half power. This is why I think it's important that you have a camping cooker, and I appreciate we're not in a field and we're not doing this on the go, but you can do the heat. Ooh, I think our bread needs turning over. You need a cooker that you can control the heat on. Look at that. Beautiful. Maybe a touch too much oil there, in fact. So that's Stace's. Mine will be the next one. Much better. We'll just take a moment. We're also going to put in some black pudding. Now, Don't look at the label. It might be Marks and Sparks black pudding, but you still love us. Black pudding is great. And the reason it's good is because it's pretty much cooked already. So you're only really warming it through, which makes it very handy because you can just throw it in at the end of the cooking. And that's really how you cook this recipe. Put in first the items that are going to take longest to cook, and go with the things that are going to just need warming through towards the end. The other thing you can do for this breakfast, of course, is if you're only out for a day or so, like we are this time, is you can pre-cook quite a lot of this, and then all you do is warming it through and doing your eggs. Now your black pudding, you want to be cutting like this. You want nice long lengths, and then just turn it into squares. So you can do 2 at a time if you've got a nice sharp Australian knife. And the lovely thing about doing the black pudding is you get to trash the fish okay. Most important part. Oh, I love black pudding. There we go. I will admit, I will be the first to admit that this breakfast is perhaps not the most vegetarian friendly, but I would say you probably can replace most of it with vegetarian alternatives. Those of you who know me also know that I've just had chickens, and I was really hoping to do this recipe with their eggs, but that's a no-go, I'm afraid. They're not laying yet. Most unfair. Okay, well this is just going to take a few minutes to cook through. This bread is nearly done. Come back in 5 minutes and we'll add the eggs. Well, it's been 5 minutes and we're just taking the opportunity to have some tea. In that 5 minutes, the first flatbread is finished. I've made this one a little bit thick. You may want to pound it a little bit more, and I've used a little bit too much olive oil. So you may want to remember that. We're going to scramble the eggs now. A little bit of seasoning, very, very simple. Just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. These are great salt and pepper holders, by the way. They're completely waterproof, MSR. You can get them from Millets and Blacks and that kind of place. Although, frankly, if you're thinking about buying camping gear, avoid millets like the plague. If you want to know why, check out the blog, londonbiker.com, search for millets. Let's give these eggs a scramble. Now, you will also be wondering why I've made quite so much food for 2 people for breakfast. And admittedly, Les's recipe was more for an omelette type breakfast. But what I've done is cook all the meat that I had, and it's a little bit too much meat. And rather than an omelette, it's more a dish of meat binded by egg. But the good thing about that is that I've got my thermos jug here with a wide mouth, and I'll be loading that up for lunch as well. So none of it will go to waste. Right. Let's put the egg into the pan. Just before we do that, let's turn this second piece of bread. Now this piece of bread should be a little bit better because it was a little bit thinner and there's not as much olive oil in the pan. That's cooking through lovely. Let's give this one last turn. Everything is cooked. Okay. Let's put the scrambled egg in. Straight away you'll hear the heat go down, but it won't take long for that to pick back up. And then you have to keep this moving. You have to keep the whole thing moving, because what the egg will try to do is solidify, like scrambled egg, right on the bottom. So this stage of the cooking doesn't take very long at all. Make sure you keep the sides clear. And actually, if you come in a little bit closer, you can see there that the egg is already turning into scrambled egg along the sides. And we'll have some there as well. So keep the whole thing moving. I'm very quickly just going to add a little bit more pepper into here, just to give this a little bit of a lift. These are plain pork sausages from the butcher. So they'll need a little something. There we are. The egg is really starting to turn now. Now Stace has metal versions of the spatula that I'm using, And I think in a case like this where there's quite so much meat in the pan, his version would be better. There we go. You can really see that scrambled egg coming through now. Keep the whole thing moving. Make sure there's no fluid on the bottom. No, look at that. And there you have it. Breakfast fit for champions. At the very least, breakfast fit for people who like meat. And our second piece of bread is done as well, so we're going to tuck into that. Thank you for watching. Questions, comments, or recipe tips, please drop us a line, matthew@matthewcashmore.com, or leave a comment here on YouTube or on the blog, thelondonbiker.com. Next recipe, couscous, courtesy of Rosie Niven. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
What did it use my grilly pot?
The grilly put?
Grilly pod. Gilly pod. Grilla pod.
I know what I meant. Does this come up anymore? No. I've got like a little windy up thingy.